The Trap. HFY Sci-Fi story. The blackness of space stretched forever. Silent, endless and cold. Inside that darkness, the Zarth Empire's battle fleet waited, hidden behind a belt of frozen asteroids. Thousands of alien ships floated quietly, their engines powered down, their lights dim. They were hunters, patient and confident. At the center of the fleet stood the flagship Vorakesh, a giant warship shaped like a blade. Its commander, General Vakrel, watched the stars through a wide glass window. He smiled, his sharp teeth catching the pale light of a nearby moon. Before him was a perfect trap. The humans had no idea what was coming. "The human 12th Fleet is on approach," said his second-in-command. "Their scanners won't detect us, General." Vakrel's eyes glowed with pride. "Good," he said, when they passed through the Helios Rift. "We strike, no survivors." Around him, the bridge filled with low laughter. The Zarth believed this battle would be quick and glorious. They had studied the humans for years. They saw them as emotional, reckless, easy to trick. Every ambush they had planned before had worked perfectly against smaller races. And now, they were certain it would work again. Vakrel raised a clawed hand and opened a holographic display. A map of the rift appeared, showing asteroid positions and energy fields. The human ships were a small blue cluster moving toward the center. He zoomed in and smirked. "They have no escort scouts," he said. "They travel blind, but deep within that blue cluster, on a distant human ship, someone was watching too." Admiral Grace Hollander stood inside the bridge of the HSS Resolute, her gaze calm and sharp. "Any movement from the asteroid field?" she asked. Her officer replied, "Nothing, Admiral. Scanners show all clear." Hollander nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing. "They think we're blind," she whispered. "Let them think it." Her crew exchanged quick glances but said nothing. The Admiral had been quiet for days, her orders strange but precise. She had commanded the fleet to fly in a straight line through the most dangerous part of the rift. She had ordered communications to stay silent, no signals, no noise, no chatter. The young lieutenant finally spoke. "Ma'am, if this is a trap, we're heading right into it." Hollander gave a small smile. "Yes," she said softly, "and that's exactly what they expect." She turned to her tactical officer. "Activate GhostNet, and keep power signatures minimal." A soft hum filled the bridge as invisible fields shimmered around the ships. The fleet continued forward, silent and waiting back in the asteroid field. The Zarth fleet adjusted positions. Massive cannons charged slowly, glowing with energy. Small fighters prepared to launch. They could already see the faint glimmer of human ships entering their kill zone. Vakrel raised his hand. "Hold," he commanded. "Not yet." He wanted them closer. He wanted to watch their faces when the first shot hit. One of his officers looked uneasy. "General, our long-range sensors are picking up slight distortions." Vakrel frowned. "Distortions?" "Yes, sir, like reflections. Probably human radar ghosts," Vakrel growled. "Ignore them." He returned his gaze to the viewport. The humans were moving perfectly into position, then suddenly, every Zarth ship went dark for a split second. The lights flickered, the sensors glitched. A sharp, high-pitched tone filled their ears. "What was that?" shouted one of the technicians. "Unknown interference," replied another. Vakrel's smile disappeared. "Find the source," he barked, but the interference was everywhere. Ghost signals, false targets, and strange echoes filled their screens. The humans' positions vanished and reappeared across multiple locations. "Impossible," said the sensor officer. "They're moving too fast." "They're not moving," Vakrel growled, his voice low and uncertain. "They're hiding." On the HSS Resolute, Admiral Hollander watched her plan unfold. Her tactical officer smiled. "GhostNet is fully active, Admiral. They can't see us." "Good," she replied calmly. "Let's see how long it takes them to panic." Back among the asteroids, the Zarth fleet fired early. Bolts of plasma streaked through empty space. Hitting nothing, asteroids exploded, lighting up the darkness. The humans didn't move, didn't return fire. They just waited unseen. The Zarth began to shout over each other. "Where are they? I can't lock onto their positions." "They were right there." Vakrel slammed his fist into the console. "Scan again." "Now!" he roared, his officer's voice trembled. "Sir!" I'm detecting massive energy spikes behind us. Vakrel froze. Behind us, he repeated, his eyes wide. The holographic map updated, and dozens of red human ships appeared behind the Zarth line, weapons charged. From the darkness, the voice of Admiral Hollander came over a broad transmission. Her tone was calm and cold. Zarth Command, this is Admiral Hollander of the human 12th Fleet, she said. You planned the perfect ambush, she paused. But you forgot one thing. A heartbeat of silence followed. We were waiting. The transmission cut off. Every human ship opened fire at once. Space lit up like dawn. The trap had closed, just not the way the Zarth expected. The Silent Watchers, HFY Sci-Fi story, 2 weeks before the ambush. The stars over Earth burned bright and calm. Inside the orbiting command station Vigil 1, Admiral Grace Hollander stood alone before a holographic display. The screen showed countless red dots moving in formation. The Zarth fleet. They were preparing for war. Behind her, Dr. Elian Ward, Chief Intelligence Officer, walked in carrying a data pad. They're planning another trap, he said quietly. Hollander didn't turn. Her eyes remained fixed on the map. I know, she replied. It's their pattern. They strike from the dark. They think we never learn. Ward placed the data pad down. His tone cautious. Admiral, our scouts report their movements near the Helios Rift. Exactly where we plan to pass. Then that's where we'll go, she said simply. Ward frowned. You want to walk right into their ambush? Hollander smiled slightly. No, Elian. I want them to think we are. For months, humans had been studying the Zarth. Their ships, their weapons, their timing. Every trap the aliens had used on smaller races had been recorded and analyzed. Humans had built a system called GhostNet, a field of sensor echoes and false signatures. It didn't just hide human ships. It created illusions to an enemy scanner. They looked like hundreds of fleets, all fake, all shifting. Hollander's plan was simple but dangerous. She would use GhostNet to trick the Zarth into revealing their positions first, then strike from behind while they fired at ghosts. The crew called it Operation Mirror. It sounded like madness, but humanity had learned that madness was often what saved them. Back on the fleet, tension was high. Every soldier knew this could be their last mission, yet no one hesitated. They trusted the Admiral. They trusted Earth. The night before departure, Hollander walked the decks of her ship. She saw young faces, nervous but determined. One engineer stopped her and asked, "Ma'am, why do we always end up fighting everyone?" She looked at him and said softly, "Because we never started, but we always finish it." When the fleet left orbit, Earth watched in silence. Families, leaders, and civilians gathered under the night sky. They saw streaks of light crossing the heavens. The 12th Fleet heading into the unknown. No one knew what waited for them. But everyone hoped, back in the present, inside the asteroid field, the Zarth waited in their perfect formation. They thought the humans were clueless. They thought the prey was walking right into their jaws. But on the hidden edge of the rift, cloaked human scouts were already watching. Their stealth drones recorded every alien move, every heat signature, every whisper of engine noise. One drone pilot whispered through the comms, "Target lock confirmed, Admiral." On the HSS Resolute, Hollander nodded. "Good," she said. "Let them see what they want to see." Her ships dimmed their lights and slowed, pretending to be unaware. Every alien eye focused on them. Every gun was ready. The silence stretched for long minutes. Then suddenly, Hollander said quietly, "Begin the illusion," and the stars seemed to move. The Zarth scanners went wild, their screens filled with hundreds of false targets, human fleets where there were none. Every reading showed movement, energy and heat, but none of it was real. General Vakrel, far inside the field, shouted, "They're panicking! Look at them scatter!" His officers nodded eagerly. "They're disorganized, sir." He grinned. "Then we strike now," but what he saw was a lie. The humans weren't running. They were waiting, and they were watching. The trap was ready. The hunters were about to meet the hunted. The ambush reversed. HFY Sci-Fi story. The first blast of plasma ripped across the rift. It hit nothing. The Zarth cannons fired again and again, tearing apart asteroids and shadows. They thought they were destroying the human fleet. But every target was a projection inside the chaos. Admiral Hollander gave her order. "Now," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Activate formation Echo 1. Her ships appeared out of the void like ghosts, rising behind the Zarth line. Their guns already charged, their positions perfect. Every barrel pointed directly at the enemy's back. General Vakrel froze as his sensors screamed, "Multiple signatures behind us." His officer shouted. He turned toward the main screen, human warships, dozens of them surrounding his fleet. "Impossible," he hissed. "They were ahead of us." "No, sir," said his technician. "They never were." Then the darkness exploded in light. Human plasma bolts tore through the nearest Zarth cruisers. One after another, alien ships burst into fire. Spinning into the void, the Zarth tried to turn. But their formation was too tight. They collided, their own blasts hitting allies instead of enemies. In minutes, the perfect ambush turned into chaos. On the HSS Resolute, Hollander stood firm. Her crew worked fast, calling out targets. "Enemy flagship locked. Fire when ready," she ordered. The Resolute's main cannon fired a blinding beam that split the void in half. The shot pierced the Vorakesh's shields like paper. Vakrel's ship shuddered, alarms screaming, "Return fire!" He shouted, but it was too late. All across the Zarth fleet, systems were failing, their communications jammed, their sensors blinded by the GhostNet signal storm. They were fighting shadows and losing. The humans moved like predators, silent and precise. Every ship working with perfect coordination. Every strike planned long before the first shot was fired. They had rehearsed this moment 100 times, and now it unfolded exactly as Hollander had imagined. She watched the burning wreckage on the main screen and whispered, "You wanted a trap." Her voice was quiet, cold. "Well, here it is." The Zarth flagship's hull cracked open. Fires burned across its decks. Vakrel stared into the void, his pride gone. How did they know?" he gasped. No one answered, because deep in his heart he already knew. The humans had been watching, waiting and learning. When the last of his ships tried to flee, Hollander gave a single order: disable them, not destroy. The humans didn't cheer, they didn't celebrate. They simply moved with purpose, silent and strong, as the last Zarth vessel drifted powerless through the wreckage. The human fleet regrouped. Behind them, the stars glowed brighter, reflecting off the twisted metal of their enemies. The ambush was over, but the war had only begun. And in the quiet after the storm, the message spread across the galaxy like fire. The humans saw everything. They were never blind. They were waiting. The ambush reversed. HFY Sci-Fi story. The first blast of plasma tore through the darkness. It glowed bright and wild, slamming into empty space. The Zarth fleet opened fire, unleashing their full power. Explosions lit the asteroid field, turning night into fire. They believed they had caught the humans by surprise. They believed victory was already theirs. Inside the flagship Vorakesh, General Vakrel leaned forward with pride. "Look at them run," he hissed. "They scatter like frightened animals." His bridge crew cheered, their confidence blinding them. But one technician frowned at his console. "Sir, the targets, they're not moving like real ships." Vakrel growled. "What do you mean?" The technician's voice shook. "They're flickering, sir." Like reflections. Before Vakrel could respond, the Vorakesh shook violently. A blast slammed into the ship's rear quarter. The lights flickered, alarms screamed. "What was that?" shouted the commander. "Unknown origin!" "Sir," came the reply. Vakrel turned sharply to the tactical display. His eyes widened. Dozens of new signatures had appeared behind his fleet. Human ships emerging from the dark, weapons ready. The humans had been silent until now. Their engines hidden, their signals masked. Now they roared to life. Blue-white light poured from their thrusters as they charged forward. Their formation was perfect. Their aim precise. It was no retreat, no panic. It was an ambush, their ambush, on the HSS Resolute. Admiral Hollander watched it unfold with calm eyes. "Fire control, begin the strike pattern," she said. Her voice was steady, cold as steel. The ship vibrated as its cannons fired in perfect rhythm. Bolts of light streaked through space, cutting through Zarth armor. The human fleet moved like a single creature, swift, silent, unstoppable. The Zarth tried to respond, but confusion reigned. "Turn the fleet!" Vakrel shouted. "Face them!" But their ships were packed too close. Every turn crashed one vessel into another. Their own fire struck friendly hulls. It was chaos. The perfect trap had become a grave. The humans kept advancing, no mercy, no hesitation. Every shot found its mark, every move was planned. Admiral Hollander stood straight on her command deck. Her eyes reflected the burning light of the battlefield. "They thought we were blind," she said quietly. "But we were watching." The Zarth heavy destroyers tried to regroup, but the GhostNet fields scrambled their targeting systems. Their sensors showed human ships everywhere. They fired at illusions, each blast wasted, each second bringing them closer to destruction. Inside the Vorakesh, panic spread. Communications failing. "We can't reach command. Our shields are down to 30%. Vakrel slammed his fist on the console. He refused to believe it. He had planned every step, every detail. How could they have known? Outside, the answer unfolded in the silence of space. The human fleet split into 3 wings, one attacking the front, one striking the flank, and one cutting through the center. Precision, discipline, and fury. That was the human way. The void filled with wreckage as alien ships exploded. The light from the battle was so bright it reached nearby planets. On the HSS Resolute, Hollander spoke softly into the comms. "All ships maintain formation. Finish this." Her officers nodded. No one smiled. No one cheered. This was not joy, it was justice. As the last of the outer Zarth cruisers fell, Vakrel's flagship floated alone. Its armor melted, engines failing. He looked out the viewport. Human ships surrounded him from every angle. Their guns glowed red. Their lines sharp and perfect. He finally understood. The humans had never walked into his trap. They had let him walk into theirs. A transmission came through. The face of Admiral Hollander appeared, calm and expressionless. "General Vakrel," she said. "You planned the perfect ambush." She paused. "But you forgot one thing." Vakrel glared. "And what is that?" Her eyes narrowed. "We were waiting," before he could speak again. The transmission cut off. Moments later, the Resolute's main cannon fired. A blinding beam of light struck the Vorakesh. The flagship cracked open like glass. Fragments spun away into the void. The explosion lit up the dark like a rising sun. Across the rift, the battle ended. The silence that followed was heavy. No cheers came from the human ships. Only quiet breathing, the sound of survival. The crew watched the drifting wreckage. No one spoke. They knew what they had done. They knew the message had been sent. The humans didn't just win a battle that day. They changed the rules of war. The galaxy would remember the night the hunters became the hunted. And from that day forward, the name of Earth carried weight again. Because when the humans fight, they do not fight for conquest. They fight for home. And when they wait for the perfect moment to strike. And when they strike, the stars themselves tremble. Fire and fear. HFY Sci-Fi story. The battlefield was burning. The Helios rift glowed with fire and smoke. Thousands of broken ships drifted slowly. Metal twisted, air leaking, lights fading into darkness. The human fleet floated among the wreckage. Silent and victorious, but it was not over yet. The sensors on the HSS Resolute began to flash red. "Admiral," said the tactical officer, "something big is moving inside the rift." Hollander turned toward the screen. "What kind of movement?" She asked. "Unknown, ma'am. Enormous energy readings. Too large for a single ship." The bridge went silent. Then the image appeared. A shadow rising behind the asteroids. Larger than any known warship. The crew gasped. It was a Zarth Dreadcore, a massive fortress ship hidden deep within the rift. It had stayed hidden through the entire battle, waiting for the right time to strike. Its hull was black and covered with energy spines. Glowing red like fire veins, the monster had awakened. "Sir," said one of the remaining Zarth officers inside the Dreadcore, "General Vakrel's fleet has been destroyed." The new commander, a cold-eyed alien named Terran, hissed, "Then we will avenge him." He raised a clawed hand. "Charge the weapon. Target the humans." A deep vibration filled the void. Energy gathered in the core of the great ship. A beam powerful enough to tear planets apart. On the HSS Resolute, alarms screamed louder. "Admiral, the Dreadcore is charging its main cannon." "How long until it fires?" 2 minutes, maybe less." Hollander didn't move. She just stared at the screen. "Send word to all ships," she said calmly. "Form the shield wall, we hold the line." Across the fleet, Human ships moved quickly, forming a tight circle. Each ship redirected power from weapons to shields. The glow of energy barriers spread between them like blue glass. Inside that ring of light, thousands of human lives waited. The weapon of the Dreadcore kept growing brighter. It was like a second sun being born in the dark. The young lieutenant looked terrified. "Admiral, that thing can destroy us all." Hollander didn't flinch. "Maybe," she said. "But fear doesn't stop the fire, it feeds it." Back on the Dreadcore, Terran grinned. "They will die together," he said. "Fire the cannon." The weapon released a blinding beam of pure destruction. It tore through the asteroid field, vaporizing everything in its path. It hit the human shield wall like the fist of a god. The Resolute shook violently. Alarms blared, panels cracked, sparks flew across the bridge.
"Shields down to 60%. Hold!"
Hollander shouted, gripping the console. Another impact followed, even stronger. "Shields failing," cried the officer. Still, she did not back down. "Redirect power from the engines," she ordered. "We don't run, we endure." Outside, the human fleet glowed with blue fire. Their shields rippled under the pressure, but they held. The light of the beam began to fade. The Dreadcore's weapon slowed, its energy exhausted for now. Hollander exhaled. "Status?" she asked. "Minimal damage, Admiral, but we can't take another hit like that." She nodded. "Then we finish it now." The human fleet spread out again. Moving like a wave, every ship aimed at the Dreadcore's exposed side. Hollander's voice echoed through the comms. "All ships concentrate fire on the core." Now, dozens of plasma beams lit the darkness. They struck the Dreadcore's armor. It shook but did not break. Inside the alien fortress, Terran shouted. "They are trying to pierce the core, reroute all power to shields." But the humans didn't stop. They kept firing, over and over, relentless. Each shot tearing another wound into the giant's hull. Finally, one of the human destroyers, HSS Titan, broke formation. Its captain, Elias Vaughn, opened a private channel. "Admiral, permission to ram the target." Hollander froze for a second. "That's a suicide run," she said. "I know," he replied, his voice steady. "But if we don't end it now, we all die." She looked at the burning Dreadcore, then closed her eyes. "Permission granted." "Captain." The Titan turned toward the enemy ship, engines flaring, shields at maximum. The crew aboard watched silently as they sped forward. One whispered, "For Earth," and the rest repeated it. For Earth, the Dreadcore's guns turned, firing blast after blast, but the Titan kept coming. Its hull melted, its armor broke apart. Still, it did not stop at the last moment. The Titan crashed into the Dreadcore's core chamber. The explosion was massive. Light brighter than any star filled the rift. When the light faded, the Dreadcore was gone. Only fragments and dust remained. The human fleet drifted among the debris, their senses silent. Then a single voice broke the quiet. "Admiral." "It's over." Hollander lowered her head. "Get me the casualty report," she said quietly. The officer's voice trembled. "The Titan is gone, Admiral." "All hands lost." Hollander closed her eyes. "Then they saved us all," she whispered, outside. The wreckage of the Dreadcore burned like a fading star. The humans had faced the impossible and survived, but it had cost them dearly. The crew stood in silence, proud, heartbroken and stronger than before. The galaxy had seen their fire, and it would remember their courage, because fear could not break them, not then, not ever. The Roar of Earth, HFY Sci-Fi story. The smoke of battle drifted across the stars. Broken ships turned slowly in silence. The light of explosions faded, leaving only the cold glow of distant suns. The war at the Helios Rift was over, but its echo had just begun on the HSS Resolute. Admiral Hollander stood in the command deck. Her uniform was torn, her eyes tired, but her spirit was unbroken. The crew worked quietly, their faces pale under the soft light. No one spoke. They all knew what they had done, and what it had cost. "Status report," Hollander said. 17 ships lost, replied her officer. Thousands dead. But the Dreadcore is destroyed. Hollander closed her eyes for a moment. "Signal Earth," she said softly. "Tell them." We held the line. The message traveled across the dark, through relays, satellites, and long-range beacons. All the way home, when it reached Earth, the entire planet stopped. In cities, on ships, in colonies across the solar system, people listened. They heard the voice of Admiral Hollander say those words. We held the line, and then the world roared. From the highest towers to the deepest mines, from frozen moons to burning deserts, humanity shouted as one. The fear that had haunted them for years was gone. They had proven that no enemy, no empire, no alien power could break them. On the alien world of Zarth Prime, silence ruled the war chamber. The High Council of the Zarth Empire stared at the report in disbelief. The Dread Corps. Destroyed, one of them whispered, by humans. Another hissed. The Supreme Chancellor slammed his fist against the table. They were supposed to be weak, but even he could hear the truth behind his anger. They were not weak. They were waiting. Fear spread like smoke through the galaxy. Other species who once ignored Earth began to speak in whispers. The humans had fought the Zarth and survived. They had turned an ambush into a massacre. They had destroyed the most powerful weapon ever built, and they had done it together on the HSS Resolute. Hollander looked out at the drifting wreckage. The stars reflected off her eyes like tiny flames. She remembered every name, every ship, every sacrifice, the Titan, the crew who had chosen death to save them all. She whispered their names under her breath. Heroes, she said. Every one of them. The communications officer turned. Admiral, Earth Command wants to promote you to Supreme Commander. Hollander shook her head slowly. Not yet, she said. Let the people celebrate the ones who never came home first. The officer nodded, then added quietly, Admiral, sensors show movement at the edge of the rift. Hollander frowned. What kind of movement? Small ships, ma'am. Zarth escape pods. Hollander watched the screen for a long moment. Then she said, let them go. Her voice was calm, cold, and final. Let them return home and tell the story of what they saw. Across the galaxy, rumors began to spread, stories whispered in alien tongues. They spoke of the day humanity roared, of a fleet that came from a small blue world and faced death without fear, of the humans who waited in the dark and struck like thunder. Every world heard the tale, and every empire listened. Months later, a monument was built in Earth orbit. It was simple, tall, and made of steel. On it were engraved the names of all who had fallen in the Helios Rift. At its base were 3 words, we were waiting. Visitors came from every colony to see it. Some left flowers, others left small pieces of ship metal. Children touched the engraved words and asked their parents what they meant. And the parents said, it means when humanity is tested, we do not run. It means when we fight together. It means that even the stars will hear us roar. Far beyond, in the empty space where the Dread Corps had fallen, fragments still drifted slowly, silent reminders of the night the galaxy changed. Among the wreckage, a single human beacon still blinked faintly. Its signal repeated the same words over and over, a message for any who dared to listen. This is the human fleet. We are alive, we are watching, and we are ready. Because Earth had spoken once, and the galaxy trembled, but now the galaxy listened, and it would never forget the roar of mankind.